step into a world where history and true crime collide. We uncover the stories, the people, and the places behind some of the most gripping moments from the past. With cutting-edge AI-generated visuals, we breathe new life into these forgotten chapters, giving them a bold, modern twist you won't find anywhere else. Love history with a fresh edge? Hit subscribe and join us on this journey through time. In the heart of London's East End, the names Ronnie and Reggie Kray once struck fear into the city's underworld. Twin brothers, born in 1933, they grew up amid poverty and war, raised in a close-knit family who protected their own. But as they got older, the Krays turned from local boys into criminal legends, gangsters who blended brutality with celebrity. The world knew them simply as the Krays, but within London's seedy underbelly, they were known as the ringleaders of a criminal empire, the Firm. Ronnie, the more volatile of the two, had an unpredictable edge. He was open about his homosexuality, a bold move in an era where such things were taboo. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, Ronnie's violent tendencies were rarely kept in check. Reggie, by contrast, was the smoother operator, seen by many as the brains of the operation. Together, they made a dangerous team. Brawn and brains, charm and chaos. They ran their criminal operation with ruthless efficiency, blending protection rackets, fraud, arson, and armed robbery with an odd twist. London's glitterati loved them. In the 1960s, the Krays reinvented themselves as nightclub owners. Their venues, like Esmeralda's Barn, became playgrounds for celebrities, aristocrats, and even politicians. Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and Diana Dors all brushed shoulders with the twins. But beneath the glitz and glamour, the Krays ruled with iron fists. They extorted local businesses, laundered money through clubs, and used brutal violence to intimidate rivals. Anyone who crossed them paid the price. Yet they were still seen by some in the East End as folk heroes, boys done good, who looked after their own and kept the streets in order. But as their reputation grew, so did their recklessness, and violence became a signature. One of the most defining and chilling moments of Ronnie Kray's descent into chaos was the murder of George Cornell. Cornell, a known associate of the rival Richardson gang in South London, had publicly insulted Ronnie, calling him a fat poof, a slur Ronnie didn't forget. On March 9, 1966, Cornell was drinking at the Blind Beggar pub in Whitechapel when Ronnie walked in, unannounced. Without a word, Ronnie pulled a Luger pistol from his coat and calmly shot George Cornell in the head in front of a packed bar. The murder was chilling, not just for its brazenness, but for its symbolism. It wasn't just revenge. It was a message, a public execution meant to assert dominance, to show that the Krays could get to anyone, anywhere. But it also marked the beginning of their downfall. The walls were closing in. The most notorious act of violence committed by the Krays came the following year, and it would ultimately seal their fate. Jack the Hat McVitie was a low-level associate of the Firm, known for his drug use, erratic behavior, and growing resentment towards the twins. Reggie had entrusted him with a hit job, to assassinate ex-friend and business partner Leslie Payne. But Jack botched the job and pocketed the money. The Krays saw this not just as incompetence, but betrayal. In October 1967, McVitie was lured to a party in Stoke Newington under the pretense of reconciliation. But as soon as he arrived, the trap was sprung. Ronnie, already unhinged, tried to shoot Jack with a gun that misfired. Reggie took over, stabbing McVitie multiple times in a frenzy, reportedly yelling, "Shut up or I'll kill you," as Jack pleaded for his life. The killing was chaotic, brutal, and carried out in front of several witnesses. The twins were no longer silent operators, they were out of control. Jack's body was never recovered. Rumors spread that it had been dismembered and buried in a shallow grave or dumped at sea. Witnesses were terrified into silence, but police were now closing in. Detective Superintendent Leonard "Nipper" Reed of Scotland Yard led the investigation. He had pursued the Krays for years, but had lacked the evidence to bring them down. The murder of Jack McVitie provided that opportunity. Reed intensified pressure on their associates. Slowly, a few broke ranks. Statements were made. testimonies collected. In 1968, the Krays were finally arrested and charged with multiple crimes, including the murders of George Cornell and Jack McVitie. Their trial was one of the longest and most expensive in British history. In 1969, both twins were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a recommendation that they serve no less than 30 years. Ronnie was sent to Broadmoor Hospital due to his mental illness. He would remain there until his death in 1995. Reggie spent his time in high-security prisons and was only released in 2000 on compassionate grounds. He died of cancer shortly afterward. To this day, the Kray twins are etched into Britain's criminal folklore. They've been the subject of books, films, documentaries, and endless tabloid stories. Their story is one of violence, power, and charisma. A tale of two brothers who rose from poverty to become kings of the East End, before their empire crumbled under the weight of their own brutality. But they also serve as a dark mirror to post-war Britain, a reminder of how glamour and violence can blur, how crime can wear a suit and smile for the camera. This was The Krays and the Firm, Part 1. In Part 2, we'll dig deeper into the corruption scandals, the Lord Boothby connection, and the twisted world of blackmail, politics, and influence that kept the Krays in power for so long. Subscribe now and step further into the shadows of British crime history.